What is going on, y'all? Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Chris Hennessy. This is Ending the Stigma, where we talk about all things justice related, addiction related, human trafficking, um, any of that kind of stuff. So, and y'all, I'm going to tell you ahead of time, my computer has been glitching out really bad. I don't know why. I've restarted it already. So if I start glitching, just kind of bear with me a little bit. Um, So, real quick, before we get into my guest tonight, who has an amazing story that I've only heard just a little bit of, and I'm really looking forward to hearing the rest of it or all of it and what she's been up to. Um, many of you know, and also if y'all are here, drop a comment so I know you're here. Because if you don't drop a comment, I have no clue that you're watching. Um, y'all already know that Memphis has a special place in my heart. The people there are family. I love them like family. Um, they're really special to me. Well, one of our own last night lost her daughter to addiction. The daughter was 18. Her name was Marley Brewer. They have set up a GoFundMe, and let me get the link real quick. They set up a GoFundMe to help cover funeral expenses, um, and just not to toot our own horn or anything like that, but whenever I'm talking about the crew in Memphis, like we in Texas put our money in where our mouth is, right? So, we donate monthly to We Fight Monsters. The Raven is here donated to the GoFundMe. So I will never ask you to do something that I have not already done myself. Um, so there's the link on YouTube. Here it is on the Raven is Here page. It's just a sad deal, y'all. Like I said, she was 18 years old. I've met her very briefly at the Thanksgiving in the Hood. Just a beautiful young lady. Her mom's beautiful. Her brother or her mom's boyfriend Garland, he's like a brother to me. I met him the first time we went to Memphis, and he's uh, just an amazing dude. And just it's kind of hit the whole Memphis fam and us down here in Texas really hard, just because we're so intertwined with them up there. And whenever they're hurting, we're hurting, right? So I don't care if it's $1, if it's $5, if it's $100, whatever it is. If you could donate to the GoFundMe and help cover funeral expenses for Marley, like, look, I would really consider it a personal favor. I'll probably interrupt Lexie a time or two during the interview just to drop these links again. But anyway, my guest tonight is a child trafficking and exploitation survivor. Like I said, I've heard some of her story. I know kind of sort of what she's been up to behind the scenes, but there's a lot of stuff that's gone on that I haven't heard yet. Um, so I'm really anxious to hear it and hear what she's been doing. So y'all help me welcome. It's Alexandria Martin. Look, y'all, but she goes by Lexie, and that's just what I've always called her. So anyway, hi Lexie.
How you doing? Hi, everybody. Hi,
Yeah.
shirt.
Yeah. Kalila is here.
Yes,
Hi, Kalila.
yes, yes.
That's another one of my sisters. Ellen is here. Hey, Ellen. Thanks for dropping in. I know you know exactly what it's like. Ellen lost her daughter to fentanyl a fentanyl overdose a little over about 2.5 years ago this month. It was last September, if I'm not mistaken, or 2 Septembers ago. So it's been a year and a half, not 2.5, a year and a half. Um, so yeah, anyway, hi, thanks for being here.
Thank you. Yes.
So, fun fact for everyone, this show has been scheduled long before I ever even started season 5 of Ending the Stigma. Like, we talked about this, and she was like, look, I've got some stuff got to get lined out. I want this to happen and this to happen. So let's shoot for the spring. So this has been scheduled for like 6 months or something.
Something like that. I think since like November.
Yeah, November. Okay, November. So 4 months, 5 months. Yeah. Yeah, I see you wearing a Kalila shirt. I didn't even look.
Yes.
I didn't even.
I
Yes.
love this. I love this phrase, and I just felt like it was
What is
so
it? What
meant
does
for
it say?
tonight.
You're
You
flip.
were
So I
pulled out
can't.
of the pits of hell to go back and get the others, and that's a
Come
key
on.
direct.
Come on.
Yes,
Yes, I love
shout
it.
out to my survivor sister. I love you. So I had to make sure
Yeah.
I represented for you tonight after
Yeah, I
listening to
love
the
Kalila.
survivor.
I got the chance to meet her and Brad. Was it December? Kalila? Was it Christmas in the Hood? I think it was Christmas in the Hood. I got a chance to meet them. Um, along with Kristen Vaughn and some other people that I only met on social media. So it was pretty cool. And she's just as amazing in person as she is on social media. Like what you see is what you get with her for real.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So again, thanks for being here. Love you too, sis. Just tell us, just start wherever you want to start and take us wherever you want to take us. So,
Okay. I know, right? So, who am I? Alexandria, but I love to be called by Lexie. I was born and raised in Reading, Pennsylvania. I now live in Colorado, in Denver. I love it out here in Colorado. So a little bit about me. Yeah, like where it all started, I guess. I'm in
hang on,
recovery.
let me interrupt you. If anybody wants a hoodie like Lexi's or any of the other,
Hey,
I still need to go order something. I have not done that, Kalila. She's got some other cool designs on there. Y'all go visit KalilaRiga.com. All proceeds go back into helping Kalila get out there and spread the word on in the anti-trafficking movement. So y'all go do that. Y'all go support my sister. So look, I'm gonna say this too. It wasn't until I got into this space, into the nonprofit space and in the addiction space and in human trafficking and all that kind of stuff. Like there are a ton of people that I promote and support, and it's not competition. Like I'll post real quick about somebody else's organization before I post about ours. It's
mm-hmm.
not competition. As long as you're out there doing something, I'm going to help support and promote. So if you see me all over the place, you know, sharing this person's post or supporting Kalila or whatever, we're not in competition, y'all. We all have the same goal in mind. So anyway, disclaimer on that. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
We're not out there yet.
Yeah.
We're gonna be very soon. There's been a lot of shifts, so we'll get into that. So kind of like where it all started. So I have 5 years of recovery from meth, cocaine, and alcohol were my three vices mainly. I got sober and clean during the COVID pandemic, May 5th of 2020. So I have my 5 years coming up by the grace of God. One step at a
Nice.
time. Yes. And
Which in and of itself is amazing because that's when a lot of people really spiraled out because everybody was so isolated and so alone and all that kind of stuff. So
oh, I went
big
balls
up
to the
to
wall
you
real
for
quick the
that.
first couple months, but then I got sick and tired of getting sick and tired, and
Right.
God took the rest. So,
Yeah.
hey Roger, so good to see you. So good to see you. And so yeah, so I have 5 years of recovery. And a lot of like my addiction got really bad. Actually starting when I was exploited, trafficked. When you're a minor, it's just automatically being trafficked for commercial sex use. So it started when I was about 14, going on 15 years old. I was, I think it was like a freshman going in a sophomore in high school, and I got a friend request from a guy who was 23 on my Facebook. We had mutual friends, and he graduated from my high school, and he invited me to a rave party at his house, and during this time in my life, I was just like looking for an escape. I'm an only child. I grew up with you know, a mother who did the best of what she had, but she was dealing with a lot of generational trauma with herself when it came to anger and aggression, and it took a lot of that out on me. So I was just trying to find a way to run an escape and feel some type of love or attention in any place I could. So I think I just started drinking a little bit, but wasn't too heavy at this point. I didn't really even touch drugs yet at this point. And I got a friend request from this guy, and he invited me to a rave party, and I was just like, I need like some type of thing to tell my mom to go out, you know what I mean? And he had a sister that was my age. She was homeschooled, and he told me just like, hey, just say a friend from school, my sister, invited you to come and have a sleepover. So I did that. It was just like an easy alibi. So I went over, and the first night, I thought it was great. You know what I mean? It was like him and a couple of his friends who were like over 20 years old. I don't think there was many people, girls my age, other than like his sister and maybe a couple of her friends. But like it was like sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and I didn't realize that I was being groomed at this time.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then during that, he kind of learned a little bit about me after that first night. And he realized that I was missing the love that I wasn't receiving at my home, from my family. So he was the one that provided that, and I saw him as like my the man in shining armor for me, even when I was with
Yeah.
him or when I wasn't. He gave me attention, he gave me drugs, he gave me a place to stay, when my mom was being abusive and would kick me out. And I felt like I was being provided for, I was being taken care of. And then more and more and more, he would teach me how to perform sexual acts for him. But then it got to the point where like there was times where I didn't want to, and I tell him I don't feel comfortable doing this. And even when I was away from him, like taking pictures, I was at school and all this stuff, and he would start threatening me. First it was very kind of I don't want to call them passive threats, but they were very like more just like, well, I'll just blackmail you in a sense and tell your mom like all the things you're doing with the drugs and all this stuff. And so it was his way to keep me in. And over time this grew more and more to these little blackmail threats to especially when I was with him, like he wouldn't let me leave his house unless I'd perform these acts. He'd put a knife up against my throat, and threaten to kill
Mhm.
me unless I would do these things for him. And then it got to the point where he had his friends come over and have their fun with me or whatever while he watched, and then laugh at that, and basically they got what they wanted out of me. um I don't know if there was any like deals in the background when it came to compensation, um, because all I saw was just like, you perform and then we're gonna have our joyride from that. This went on. It just got a very toxic, abusive relationship from 14 to about 17 years old. And no one really knew other than my high school best friend. And I told her everything, and she was also a survivor herself of familia human trafficking, where her family actually, at a very young age in Panama, had her as a child sex slave. So she was rescued at a young age. So she was able to see the signs and notice the signs. And
Mhm.
she was really like motivating me to be like, you need to go and report him. And I was so scared. I was truly scared because um I was afraid if I reported him, I would lose that attention and the love and the drugs that I was receiving from him, for doing these things for him and his friends. And so, um, one day it got to the point where he threatened, if I didn't perform what he wanted me to do, he would bleed himself out on my front lawn of my mom's house. And it just got like really intense that way. And when he was saying that, on top of like threatening like stuff with me, I was at her house when he was like saying all this to me, and she helped me motivate me to call the police. I called the police, and I wrote a victim impact statement, which I had to um, basically stand it up against him in court when I was 16 years old to file a protection order, which was very, very, very hard for me to do.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, and so I did that, and the protection order was in place, and he stopped talking to me, but I'm the one that kept going back. I am the one that broke the protection order because, for a couple of months without him and like the supply that I was receiving from him, I felt like I didn't have the love that I like couldn't find at my house or within my family. I was very pushed away from both sides of my family most of my life. And so I ran going back to him. When I went back to him, he was very he pushed me away. And at this time, he had a roommate who was into girls younger than me. My abuser was only into teenage girls. His roommate was into girls under 10 years old, and he taught him a lot about
Wow.
the dark web, and taught him how to connect with, pedophiles on the dark web, the lingo, all of that, how to stay protected, and working in a team. It wasn't just his roommate, it wasn't just him, it was also his father who shared the same
Hmm.
name as him as well. And because I already had law enforcement kind of shedding light on him from this protection order, his tactics on me weren't as strong. He kept pushing me more onto his dad. So then his dad kind of like it took the exploitation from me. And it was actually really interesting because his father was in a different state. So most of all of this with him was online. And he used very similar tactics. He wasn't as aggressive with his threats with me, but he definitely lured me in. He's like, if you want to be a part of this, okay, cool, you know. And it was more performing acts on Skype at the time, with his father, and his father, I didn't know, were taking video of me and putting it on the dark web with him, as well as his roommate. It took me, I was about 17, no, yeah, 18. It was like on and off when I was like 17, 18, and I graduated high school when I was 19 years old. And I'm really thankful, because the only reason why I went into college is kind of like reintegration for me. I'm really thankful for how I reintegrated, because not a lot of survivors have the opportunity to reintegrate like I that I've went through, and that's something I definitely wanted to bring forward. But when the only reason why I pursued my college degree, my psychology degree, and ironically, my inspiration for that was actually because of the relationship that I had with my abuser. He taught me a lot of his tactics, of what he was using on other girls on gaming sites, how he was getting them to reel in, to sympathize for him. He claimed that he had like a reproduction disease that always made him angry and aggressive, and like always in pain unless he would get off from these girls. And he basically would, convince these girls on gaming sites to do things for him. um he taught me a lot of like the dark aspects of the human mind. But it really inspired me to pursue my psychology degree, because I also wanted to know like why the hell I was so crazy too. So I was
Right.
like, let me find the answers in my education. And I'm thankful, because I didn't have my mother, and I did not have my father as well, when it came to going to college. I call her my financial aid guru at school. I shared with her, not fully in depth like my trafficking situation, but not having my support from my family as much. And she helped me be an independent student in school. So I was very, very thankful, because I knew nothing about FAFSA or how to do any of that. And if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have my degree today. Um, so, I got into college. It was my first semester in school. I was on winter break. I finally got myself out of the grip of the hold from that whole family, from just that toxicity. I'm just like, I'm trying to turn my life around and learn, how do I give it back? How do I change? How do I grow? And then out of nowhere, I got a call from an unknown number, and I picked it up, and it was my abuser. And my abuser told me how he's going to be going to federal prison this time tomorrow. And I was like, what happened? And then he said, apparently for 6 months, him and his roommate were being investigated by law enforcement undercover on the gaming sites, because of how much both of them were being reported. And so he was noticing too, because then they would try to like instigate like conversations, and he could tell by the lingo that it was actually undercovers. So he knew eventually like this was all going to happen. They barged into their house and took all their electronics. So at the time he was talking to me, all the electronics were out. He did have pictures of me, and I asked him, where were those pictures? Are they going to find them? And he goes, those are on a special hard drive that are not in his house. They won't find them. Until this day, law enforcement still has not found the pictures of me. So, after that conversation, he was arrested, but not just him and his roommate. There was a um, CSAM sweep, but it wasn't called CSAM back in 2012. It was like a child pornography sweep, child human trafficking sweep in my hometown. There was
So
9
tell everybody that doesn't know what CSAM means.
um, child, children, adult, sexual. No, I forget what the A means. Um, Kiki, if you're here, help me out. It's like children, something, sexual material. I can't remember what the A means. It like blew out of my mind. I've been doing
Yeah,
all
I can't either. That's why I asked you to say it.
oh my goodness. And I did know this.
It's basically child porn, y'all.
Basically. But it's just more of a professional way to say it now. He was his charges were for 2 minors online in different states, that he had footage of on his technology. But it wasn't just him and his roommate that were arrested in this sweep. They're in my hometown of Reading, Pennsylvania, sweep, and 4 children who were rescued as well in my hometown. Yes. Thank you.
Thanks, Alina.
Abuse.
That's my other sister. I love me some
Yeah,
Alina,
we'll be
man.
talking to her
One of
Wednesday. I'm
these
so
days, I'm gonna get to
excited.
meet her in person.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, I love her.
I know. I've learned so much from her. I want to talk to her
Yeah,
about. I'm so
she's
excited. Anyways,
amazing. I
I'm
love
not even
her.
like talk to her one on one again. I love her.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks,
So
Alina.
yes. So but at the time, what's on his record, it was distribution, creation and distribution of child pornography because they didn't have Sam as even like a thing back in 2012. So he was telling me all of this. And then the next day he came, or he was incarcerated. And a couple months later, about 4 to 6 months later, after he was incarcerated, law enforcement wanted to have a conversation with me, mainly because of how much he was talking about me, as well as the protection order that I filed when I was 16. So at this time when they met me, I was couch surfing. I had no place to live. I was barely surviving in school. Um, I was really struggling. I was a sophomore at the time. And I thought before meeting the law enforcement, I was really excited. I'm like, oh my goodness, oh, I forgot this one part. That's so important. So important about this part. And I think there's a reason why I blocked it out. Um, I He told me the last things he said to me, he's like, I don't care how long it takes. When I get out, I will find you. And when he told me
Mm.
that, I did not take that lightly. To this day, I do not take it lightly. It's a really huge part of my story. So basically, what happened after that, I talked to law enforcement and I told them the situation about the story and what he said to me. And law enforcement really kind of just disregarded me. And he was just like, don't worry about him. He'll be fine. He's just going to have, he's going to be put in jail for at least 60 years plus. So you won't have to worry about that. So here's our card, you'll be good. And I felt very discarded from my own family, from my own government. I felt like I had no safe space to go. So I just went deeper down into drugs and alcohol, and even more into my basically prostituting myself. Sorry, I'm sorry. My son needs me real quick. I am so sorry.
No, go ahead,
Yeah,
bounce. Do what you have to
yeah.
do. This is a perfect opportunity for me to drop some links. All right, y'all. While she goes and does that, as you heard, if you were here at the beginning, you heard me talk about some really, really close friends of mine in Memphis, my family, like people that I really consider family. Garland Hart is just like a brother to me. I love that dude and his girlfriend, Nicole. Nicole lost her daughter last night. She was 18 years old, lost her battle to addiction. Um, this shit doesn't ever get any easier. Like, this is the first person really since my brother died that somebody really close to me has lost. I've heard of other people, dying that from addiction, and it sucks all the way around. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not discounting anybody, but this is the first person that I'm really close to that has lost someone. Um, the funeral I think is going to be Saturday, and they set up a GoFundMe to help with the funeral expenses. And like I said in the beginning, y'all, I'm not asking y'all to do anything I haven't done. Like, the Raven is here, is donated to this. I fully back and support it. If there is any way that any of y'all can drop $1, $5, $10 on the GoFundMe, y'all, I would be eternally grateful. I would really consider it a personal favor. Um, to me, to the Raven is here, to Ben and Jess, we fight monsters. I know all of us would just truly, truly appreciate it more than we can really put into words. I need to do it on YouTube too. Hang on. Yeah, Yvette, it is sad. Like, I don't remember meeting her, but I'm pretty sure I probably did. At the Thanksgiving in the Hood, she was there. Ben told me she was there. She was hanging around the testing tent, which was where Nicole was, her mom. So I'm sure I met her, at least said hi to her. But man, like, I lost my brother in March of last year. We just remembered the 1 year, March the 8th. And so I'm just thinking about like what my parents went through losing a kid, so I can't even imagine what Garland and Nicole are going through right now. Like I said, every little bit helps. They're getting like in just a few short hours, like they've gotten really close to their goal. Their goal is 5,000. Goals are, to me, like whenever I've done GoFundMe's in the past for other people, goals were meant to be broken. So if we can blow past that and really help them out, like that would be awesome. So anyway, if y'all can do that, I drop the links in the comments. And once again, like $1, $5, $10, $20, whatever, like every little bit counts. Like First time I ever ran a GoFundMe campaign for someone, we raised $35,000 in 2 weeks, and it was anywhere from $5 donations to $1,000 donations. So, but it was more of the 5, 10, and $20 donations. Those are the ones that added up really quick. And I know money's tight for everyone, like it is for everyone else. So, you know, if you feel led to, I'd sure appreciate it. All right, Lexi, you get everything lined out.
Divine timing. That was perfect.
Yeah. That was perfect.
Definitely. So yeah, so I told law enforcement about his last words to me, and they kind of just disregarded it. And yeah, in that moment, I kid you not, like I felt I felt really abandoned, not only like from my family, I felt abandoned from my own government. So I was just like, why even speak about this again? Because I'm the one that put myself in this mess. So
Right.
I just went down the destruction road where, in the midst of like pursuing my degree in college, I started going down like the BDSM road. I went down, and then like I was like mad that I was doing all these things for free, and I was just like, why am I doing this for free when I can make money for it while I'm in school? So
Yeah.
I got out of that lifestyle and just started basically selling myself, and I should have where I slept, and for about 4 years, and yeah, it was really, and that's a very interesting part of my story. I'm still working on speaking out about it. I think it's like probably the first time speaking out, and I can say it in confidence. Like listen, I respect sex workers so much. I used to be one. However, for me, it was like I couldn't be my authentic self. I had to, like, I literally learned from another friend who was a stripper and also, prostituting herself. She taught me how to bring in, Johns, you know what I mean? And she taught me how to build a persona for myself that wasn't who I authentically was. It would bring in the money, you know what I mean? And I had to do a lot of trial and error to like bring this like actress up with me that truly wasn't me, you
So
know?
while you were doing this, did you have a pimp, or you were just solely
No,
were you
it's all
solo?
for myself. This is all for myself, and it was a way. When I was in the BDSM world, however, I did have, there were, I wouldn't call them pimps, but they were doms and stuff like that. And um I was a brat. I was a brat. So, I basically was just like, how can I just like take my own power back instead of giving it away to people telling me what to do,
Yeah.
how to do it.
Yeah.
And I was, during in that transition, it was a beginning way for me to understand the value within myself, even though it still wasn't of the highest currency, but it really taught me of embracing my own value within myself and not giving it away to others, and to thinking, oh, like I'm only good enough because my dom told me to, or
Right.
my abuser told me to do this, that, and the third. And it was my way of taking my power back, and I was kind of using, my way of prostituting myself, with the help of others who are also in the game, like who are doing it independently as well, to develop for me that false sense of power. I can't speak for them, and listen, I have no hate on sex workers. Like I respect y'all so much,
Yeah.
I really do. But for me, I was losing myself. I was really
Hmm.
depleting myself, and
And obviously, I don't have any lived experience from this, but I would venture a guess to say that that's the way it ends up with most people in sex work: is you lose yourself. And I'm just thinking about it from a biblical standpoint. Sex was designed between a man and a woman as an act of love within the confines of marriage. So anything outside of that, and like I said, I'm not knocking. Like I understand, like Kalila said, it's survival sometimes, right? Like sometimes it really is. Um, but whenever you're doing stuff out of line with the way God created it, I would guess, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Kalila and Lena, like you can feel free to jump in here because, like I said, I don't have any lived experience, but I would venture to guess you do start losing yourself. Like
yeah,
I would think it can't be helped. You know what I mean?
to each your own with that, but from my experience, yes, it was, because I had to be able to do the work. I had to make sure that I was drinking,
Sure.
eating, I
Yeah.
was meeting
Yeah.
at my bars before I brought into, my
Hmm.
plate. You know what I mean? I had to make sure that I was messed up one way, shape, or form to be able to
Yeah.
do these things. I couldn't do it sober. Are you kidding me? Oh my gosh, no.
Yeah. Right.
You
Like
know,
how the
I
hell could you?
Oh my god, no. Yeah, and I remember even like performing in the bathroom, like talking a certain way, saying things different that I wouldn't say. And I remember most importantly, like looking in the mirror and just seeing, like I already had like brown eyes, but they were just straight black. Like I couldn't even
Yeah.
recognize myself. And to this day,
Yeah.
I'm so thankful I could look in my eyes and I see light in my eyes. I see color in my eyes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then I couldn't see it in myself. And you know, I was still finishing up school while you know, while pursuing like what I was going to do with my career. Even after I graduated college, I was still doing, you know, prostituting myself to make ends meet because I was living by myself. I had no roommates, I had no significant other at the time. And it got me in a really, really, really dark hole with how I value my self-worth when it came to
Mm-hmm.
measuring it with money, how I bring in money. And it also like um I also got really deep into my addiction and it turned to just from like, you know, drinking, smoking weed to cocaine and then meth. And it got really bad there for a while. I'm thankful my meth addiction was only no more like on and off for about a year and a half, but like I couldn't be able to do like have this double life. Like it was so interesting. I was pursuing my career first. I thought because I graduated my psychology degree and I was trying to do like case management work for like organizations, nonprofits.
Sure.
Yeah, where I was like helping homeless get into like, you know, Section 8 housing and stuff like that. That ironically transitioned me getting out of that work into pursuing recruiting, which I'm in now still. It's slowly transitioning out as I step into this work in Inspire Light. But yeah, it was like so crazy because like once I got into recruiting, it was like my old firm I was with, but I would be like in the day I'd be like recruiting people like, you know, for this company while I'm on my phone trying to recruit Johns at night. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I was like literally just like being a double recruiter, living a double life, like literally like sitting there at my computer. It was really crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, every day got really intense. It got really intense. I put myself in some risky situations and
Sure.
yeah, especially since I shouldn't where I slept. And I'm just really thankful that I God protected my home despite me bringing hell into my home, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically how I got out of that, um um so one of my regulars all right, one of my regulars had got STD. I didn't think it was from me. It was in their eye, ironically, which I thought was really weird. Because this person in particular, I didn't really have to do sexual things for this person. He just liked my time. And then I had a new John where he ended up getting the same thing. I was like, it's on the common denominator. And I was like, wow, and that really scared me. Luckily, it was something very like light compared to some other things. I got that taken care of. Never had to deal with that again by the grace of God. But that's what I needed to be like, I need to get the F out of this life. So I got out of the life, but I was
Yeah.
still in the addiction. And I got out of like all of like the sex work right before COVID hit. And so I was still really deep in my addiction. I was doing a ton of cocaine. I was doing a ton of like drinking and just partying my ass off because I remember at this time how I was so angry inside. I was
Yeah.
so angry inside, and I just didn't want to feel it all. I didn't want to look at it, and I just was like, let me just keep using and drinking and using and drinking, and even it got to the point where like I was using, and the drugs couldn't even numb out my anger anymore.
Yeah.
And um the main person that I partied with, he was very well off, and he was very respectful to me. Like we never, you know, I never had to do any type of work with him or anything. He actually respected me as like a friend and a person. But he left the area for a while, and I had like, and mainly it was like me and him had like the same like party friends. And then when he left, because he was like the main plug, you know, I was in like by myself in my, you know, in my house, and everything was getting locked down. You know what I mean? I also during this time got encountered with law enforcement for a DUI, actually going to one of my plug's house trying to get cocaine, and I'm thankful they caught me when I was going to his house and not from his house, because it would have been a whole
Right.
other situation. And
Right.
they only caught me. Yeah, they only caught me because of the curfew. We had curfew because of COVID at the time, and I
Yeah.
think one of the things in my area was like after 10 or 11 o'clock at night, you couldn't park in a business area. And across the street from his house was like this old school deli that I would just like always park my car in overnight. And there was a gas station across the street, and there was cops there, and he saw me pull in, and he originally were just going to ask me to move my car. They smelled marijuana in my car, and then it turned one thing into another, and then they obtained me. So then I was dealing with that, having to go through, you know, going through the courts with the DUI. And so I was really going through it at the time. And after my main person who I'd party with left the area for a while, I was just like completely by myself with my misery and my anger, and I had no person, place, or thing to distract me from this pain that I was trying to run
Right.
from inside. And I remember on May 4th, 2020, I remember that was my last time that I got like a bunch of E and coke and meth and psychedelics and drugs, like drinking. I got like a whole smorgasbord, mainly just for myself to just use. I had nobody, like even the plug tried to party with me because at the time he was trying to be like, how can we like finesse with each other? And I wasn't trying to finesse. I just wanted to get fucked up. So he left my house because like I wasn't giving him what he wanted. And I basically had all of this to myself, and I took it all myself. And it was a very short-lived high. And as the wee hours of May 5th, 2020, I was coming down off everything, and I was watching Netflix, and I was watching Tony Robinson's "I'm Not Your Guru." It's a documentary, and then there was one part of the documentary where um it was like the documentary was talking about like a retreat that he was on and all the things that he's doing with these people. And then there was one segment where he was asking people if they wanted to kill themselves. And and he asked the audience, and there was a girl that like shot her hand up real quick, and so he picked her. And when she shared a little about her story, she was from a different country where they were taught at a very young age in her culture that in order to praise God, they had to perform sexual acts. Like this was passed down from her mother, her brother. This was like generational, and it was taught at a very young age. And she felt as if the weight of the world was on her shoulders. For years and years, she was trying to carry her brother and her mother mainly through all of these things. And she said there was like a little voice inside telling her, no matter what she was being taught on the outside from her community, that is not the way to praise God. That is not the way to have a relationship with spirit. And she tried every other avenue, and she wanted to check out, and she was just like, I just want to fucking die. And somebody suggested to her, her last door on the block was Tony Robinson. And of course she said it a lot more in depth than I did, but it brought Tony Robinson, this big old, life coach, to tears, and it motivated him to first and foremost help her get the help that she needed. Because she's like, if you can go through this pain and carry your mother and your brother and still get on the other side and be able to stand here today, you can be able to help thousands and thousands of people.
Yeah.
So he helped her get the healing she needed so that she can be able to be a similar life coach of similar things that he did, that he taught. And I remember watching that, and it brought me to tears, and just something inside of my spirit broke open. And I remember even looking at the degrees on my wall, and I'm like, what the hell am I doing with my life?
Yeah.
And I decided, something told me just to look online and to look for like 12-step recovery. I tried to do recovery before in the rooms. It didn't work. I got to step 2 and I was like, GTFO, so I got out. But
Yeah.
but then I decided to go first into AA. And at the time, everything was Zoom because it was during COVID. And I remember
Hmm.
the wee hours of the morning of May 5th, 2020, going in first into a meditation room. And I remember how hard it was to even sit in silence. It was my first time to even donate. I even donated $7 to this place, to this like just holding space in the way that they did. And I don't even know why I did. I just felt, I'm just like, you know what? Just like get out of yourself. Do something to get out of yourself. So that's what I did. And it was such a struggle to sit with my insides because like I was so messy, it was so dark and so scary. I just wanted to run. And I still stayed, but I still stayed, and I still tried to the best of my ability. And my first 24 hours, I remember like sharing about like just coming off of this crazy like rampant rampage of drugs and alcohol. And a woman sat with me, and she showed me step 3, the step 3 prayer, and suggested to me to practice step 11, which is prayer and meditation, before I even got into step 1. And that was the beginning of my recovery journey, and the 12 steps, not the rooms, the fellowship. I'm thankful for the support, but it was the 12-step work where I found my relationship with higher power. And I'm really thankful for communities like 12 Steps, for people to be able to find themselves from the inside out with like-minded and like-hearted people as well. It helped me find myself again. And still, I'm still learning, 5 years on this journey. But more and more I started doing this work and looking into service, even like while like the world was on fire, like George Floyd was happening, like I was living in Philadelphia at the time, and Philadelphia was literally getting like on fire. Like there was like all these riots and stuff, and I was just living by myself. I had no friends other than people on these rooms, and I just have it playing in the background. I just had like 2 cats at the time, and it was just like me and my 2 cats, and playing this recovery stuff on repeat, even when I was sleeping, when I was awake, you know what I mean? And just really having it be a part of my spirit, part of my being, and lean into like, how can I learn how to do this for myself? And I've had a couple of sponsors, but eventually I had one that took me through all of the 12 steps. I amended it actually with the AA way in the Wellbriety way, where they used 12 steps with the native medicine wheel, which that for me is what really clicked, because there was a lot of rooms where, I had dual, you know, issues. I drank and I used, but then when I talked about drugs in AA, it's like, well, you can't have that here. And then when I'm in NA, they're like, well, we don't talk about drinking here. And I'm just like, where's a place where it could be inclusive? And Wellbriety was
Yeah.
that place for me, and it doesn't matter what you're suffering from. Wellbriety, they'll take you
Right.
as you are, and work the 12 steps. And so I was really thankful doing that. And, I've actually been sponsored a couple of women as well, to really understand that step 12 when it comes to giving back what you found. And then a couple of years in, um, I noticed that um, I struggled with intimacy. I still do to this day. And somehow, like, I manifested my husband, um, who I have today. It had to start with first really experiencing what self love was for me, and really like having a sponsor tell me, like, what you're allowing with certain things in your life is not acts of self-love, and really taking a deeper look into that. And I really had to like really take a look at myself, and like ask myself, what are these ways of self-love, and for me it was just like letting myself like lean into joy, lean into dance and music, and going outside, being with nature,
Right.
connecting with spirit. And more and more I manifested my husband. I wrote it down on paper, of like not the name, not like basically what it looked, but like what my relationship looked like with me and another person, and with God in the middle of that. And I wrote it out. I didn't want to, but spirit really led me to, like, with bells ringing in my ears on December 10th, 2021. He had me do that, and I did. And then I come to find 6 months later, I met my husband on a me dating app. He was in North Carolina, I was in Pennsylvania, and he was going through his own struggles as well. And I told him everything that I went through. I told him everything about being exploited, getting in recovery, the 12 steps, all of that. And he
Yeah.
still loved me for how I was, but I still had to continue doing that work when it came to what self-love was for me. So I can be able to, you know, love him in the right way and love my community in the right way as
Yeah.
well. Because that's something I didn't learn, from a young child. I didn't know what love was. Love were with conditions, unless I made you happy if I did this, or, I jumped as high as you wanted me to. I thought that was love,
Hmm.
and learning self-love, was really appreciating myself and giving myself love, even when I felt messy, even when I felt, I wasn't deserving, but giving myself and telling myself, and that I am worthy, I am deserving, I am love, most importantly, like God loves
Yes.
me.
Come on.
So, God loves me, and so how can I practice that so I can really feel God's love each and every single day, even in those hard moments. And So I'm thankful that he brought me together with someone who still loved me even in my messy, and has been such a great mirror for me when it came to self-sabotage sometimes, you know what I mean? And helping me see when I'm doing that to myself and reminding me of going back to that self-love and self-worth for myself, you know, even when he's not there. And yeah, now we've been together for about 3 or 4 years, and we've had we took a leap of faith to come out here. To Colorado. So when I moved out to Colorado, I was actually working the 12 steps with Sobriety, and I was facilitating meetings. I was doing service work. And the founder of Sobriety, his name's Don Koyas. He has about almost 50 years now of AA, and he's also a Native elder, Lakota elder. He happened to be on a facilitator meeting. I guess someone knew him, and I was like so like excited to see this guy because he like made this book. He made this like program that's been around for 30 plus years, and there's like a whole like thing behind it. And I was just like, I was so excited. And at this time of the year, there was a conference in Colorado Springs that was happening because that's where the headquarters is. And I was just like, this is like second best to seeing you in person, you know? And I'm like, it's such an honor to see you. And he goes, why can't you go to the conference? I'm like, I just don't have the money at the time because I was also working off like, you know, my community service and all the fines from my DUI. And he said, what if like we can give you a full ride to come out here and back? And I was just like, really? He goes, the only thing I ask is that you be of service. And I was just like, if you want me to scrub the bathroom floors with a toothbrush, I will. And I was like so excited. I was so excited. And that's what we did. White Bison Variety flew me out from Philadelphia to Colorado Springs. It was my first time on the West Coast, and I was out here for 4 days. And oh my God, it was just, I remember like there was just like the first day of my life with those 4 days and being of service. I was uh basically restocking like the resting room, and I got to meet so many different people of all different cultures and hearing so many like recovery stories and advocacy. They had Al-Anon groups, AANA, SAA, like Gambling Anonymous, like so many speakers, and it was just like so cool to like listen to these
Yeah.
people talking about how they've overcome like some darkest struggles, ideally like coming together with the culture and love, you
Yeah.
know, interconnectedness. And it really changed my life. And I remember leaving to go back. I didn't want to leave. Like there was just something about this energy here in Colorado for me where I was just like, I feel like I'm like truly embracing who I am out of all those
Hmm.
times having to run away from myself and put a mask up to make others happy around me so then I can get mine, so I can manipulate and get my needs,
Yeah.
you know, which was survival at the time for me. And here if the mask felt very uplifted. And on the way to the airport, the gentleman who was bringing me to airport, he was also had a Native background. In his car, when I was getting ready to go, I didn't even notice it because I was just like, let's go, we're ready to go. Da, 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 da. He goes, you don't see? And I'm like, what? And he's like, look at the dashboard. I look at the dashboard, and he gifted me in the honorable way with like the yellow cloth and then like medicine as well. He gifted me a golden eagle feather, and
Wow.
he shared with me a story about how, you know, he met a golden eagle on his, he was a truck driver on his travels, and the eagle told him, you know, to give these feathers that they shedded to people that was going to make, you know, an impact, that was going to serve others, you know. And he told me that. And he's like, I'm gifting this to you because I know that you're going to help so many people in this world. And I was just like, this is such an honor, because I was actually praying on receiving an eagle feather for a while. It was something I always wanted, but I didn't really like talk about it. It was just something between me and my higher power. And it was such an honor. I still have it to this day. And just to be recognized and seen in this way. And so fast forward, I had my son in December 22 going into 2023. And I started being in this, you know, of course, with the 12 steps, I started becoming a part of a community called Art of Peaceful Living, where it was kind of like self-help work. Like, I don't want to say exactly 12 steps, but there were similarities of 12 steps that I learned with Art of Peaceful Living. And in the midst of all of this, after my son was born, I met other women, ideally, which I struggled having relationships with women, especially older women, who were leaning into me, even despite my edges were still really prickly and rough. And I started like they helped me kind of see, and it was me, but they're helping me like getting like not being afraid to speak about it, of a vision of a house, ideally. And I meditated on this with, you know, this particular group in this community. Um, it started with a meditation where I was like, where do you see yourself in 20 years, after some work that I was doing? And at first I saw this house. Like I went through like this whole meditation with this community of like the beginning of the day to the end of the day. And it was like I woke up and I remember going downstairs and like seeing all these kids running around, and you know, like naturally grown food, and like land, and like stuff that I've always wanted, but like I was born and raised in like an urban community, like I didn't know that like I could have. And I was just like, what is this? Like, what is this home? And at first I was like by the beach, and like we are going to have like a beach day, and we came back and we are doing like extracurricular activities like with the land, like learning, like educating, and harvesting like for ourselves with the foods and all of this stuff. And I was just like, what is this? And I remember the wraparound porch of this big house with these rocking chairs, and there was mothers there too. And I thought at first it was a home for homeless kids. And I was like, okay, well then maybe like my vision is to provide a home for homeless kids. And the more that I leaned into that for myself, I realized it didn't fully align. So I went a little bit back deeper into that vision again, into that meditation again. And I just kept hearing like human trafficking, and I just kept getting like these signs about trafficking, and I didn't really understand what that meant. And so I started doing a lot of research, you know, and meeting survivor leaders who are already like doing the work, getting out there and speaking, you know, about, you know, giving service back in the way that they do. And I'm like, I see so many similarities, especially when it comes to the three main things of what human trafficking is all about. You know, I'm like, even though I'm not 100% sure if there was really like compensation made, because it was never in front of me directly, I'm like, I can resonate a lot with the coercion, the fraud, and the forcing for
Yeah.
sure, you
Yeah.
know. And then then I gotta, I love her still to this day, Kristen Vaughn. I love her so much because she is the first survivor leader that saw me, and we got connected by mutual friends on LinkedIn. And you know, I shared with her a little bit about this vision and what I went through, and she's like, you know, if you want to say that you're a survivor, you know, it's for you to say. And it was so hard for me to even acknowledge that I was a survivor, because for so long I stuffed this down, even with all the work that I was doing in therapy and 12 steps and all of that, you know what I mean? And having a survivor leader see me in this way, and helping me kind of elevate me to be like, it's up to you if you want to claim this for you, but I see you. And it really, really motivated me to step up and say, you know what, I am a survivor of human sex trafficking. And going out to like first share my story, I was actually very like trauma vomiting a lot at first, but I was just trying to get really back in there, like just getting comfortable, just like speaking the uncomfortable out. And I didn't really know at the
Right.
time, you know, how to share education and informative parts of my story, and I'm still growing in that way. So I started getting out there, and then the name. Oh, well, let me back up here. How Inspire like the name came together. So I saw this vision on my heart, right? Realized it was for human trafficking survivors. And I was a part of another community, a business professional who also did rescues for children. He was like a business consultant. So him and his wife did rescue. So I asked him, like, here's this vision. I have this. How do I make this into real life? And the first thing he suggested, he's like, do research and go and volunteer at safe houses that have a similar background of what you're trying to cultivate. So that's exactly what I did for the first year. Going into 2023 and 2024, I did tons of research. I volunteer with Generate Hope at their Colorado house, and I love them so much. And I learned a lot about what to do, what not to do, and really understanding that red tape, especially when it comes to reintegration and not re-exploiting survivors through organizations. I learned a lot with research in that way, and it was something that I, to this day, want to dive deeper into with how we can prevent that as a survivor-led organization. So, you know, I was just getting all this research. I built a business canvas together. I brought together a board with, right now it's just a very, very small trusted people that I
Mm-hmm.
know that'll help us, like, you know, move through as we slowly open up. for professionals to be on a board. And yeah, so Inspire Light became a thing. And the name came from God. I wanted to be something with the sunflower. I can't remember what the name was, but it was something with the sunflower. And God told me, no, God wanted something about Inspire Light. And I was actually helping a friend at the time who was in Colorado. She was going through a domestic violence situation with her partner and her 2 children at the time. And when I shared with her the name, she was the first person I shared with the name other than my husband. She opened up to me about everything that we kind of suspected, but we couldn't like make her tell us, you know. So she opened up to us about everything, and the very next day she's like, "Can I come? I can't be here anymore. Can you help me?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." So I helped her, and I made sure that God was with us all the way, but I helped her get out of Colorado to go back to her family. And bears, I don't know what bears you're talking about. Can you please elaborate on these bears?
Yeah, and real quick, Kalila had a question. I don't know if she'll see my response to it or not. She said, "How do we give towards Marley's services outside of GoFundMe?" That's the only way I know of. If y'all want to, if you're not comfortable with GoFundMe or just don't like it, I know some people don't. If you want to donate to the Raven is Here, you can go to theravenishere.org. In the notes, put Marley Brewer or just put Marley, and I'll make sure that money gets where it needs to go.
Still don't know about these bears, but
Yeah,
elaborate on these bears,
my curiosity is like way up there now.
right?
oh, oh, the bear, is it the bears you're giving away or your
Oh, the
wristbands? Is it
campaign.
those
Oh,
bears?
yes, I'll get into that in a second. And that has shifted since we last talked, Kiki. And
Okay.
I'll explain about that. Thank you. I'm glad that you brought that up. The donations right now for that have just been sitting in the PayPal account. I'll be very transparent. It's just sitting there. Let me explain. Okay. So Inspire Light evolved, did all the research, helping all these things. And I remember going to my first conference with Kristen and Jennifer Hooper. We went to Ocean City, Maryland. That's where I met them in person, October of this past year, for a 4-day conference.
I've had I've had Kalila, Jennifer, and Kristen all on the
Yeah.
podcast.
Uh-huh. And I'm really thankful for both of those ladies. And I remember going with Jennifer to one of the seminars, and she was just sharing with me some of her stories as being a keynote speaker previously and stuff like that. And I was just like, I'm like, I was just like, I know I'm here representing my organization, but I'm not really sure like what I'm doing. We're not really doing anything to give back right now. She goes, wait, you haven't done anything, excuse me, to serve survivors. I'm like, no, other than, being a volunteer with Generate Hope, and doing this research, I really haven't done anything. And I was actually considering her being a part of the board. And we were having this conversation. I'm so thankful for her being blunt with me because she was like, I don't know about that. And her response to me really got the wheels turning, really got the wheels turned. I'm like, how can we help survivors? Like while we're getting off the ground, because like and I'm still kind of working on this, is being open for donations. Like I don't even
Sure.
have it on our launch page, like our donations or EIN or none of that. Because like I said, I'm moving through that. And I remember I was like, how like why even ask for donations when there's like nothing that we're doing to help the like community right now. So I remember after the seminar, I went over to Bay and I prayed to God. I was like, God, please help us find a way to help survivors while we're still growing. And not too long after, Kristen, I shared with her a little bit my conversation with Jen, and Kristen just like went into this whole thing about the teddy bears. Yes, the teddy bears and a bracelet campaign. So when I first got to Ocean City, Kristen gave me a bracelet that had the National Human Trafficking Hotline on the back, and on the front it had like waves on it. And I actually gave it away to the Uber driver who picked me up one day, and it was just me and the Uber driver talking. And he ironically was an X991 operator, and I was sharing with him a little bit about me, Inspire Light, while I was there. And he was like telling me some things that he found suspicious when he would drive at nighttime, and there'd be people that tell him to drop him off at a bus station, but then when he got there was no bus station, and it was just like this huge like bus like bringing him to New York. And he suspected it might be something with like labor trafficking, and I felt very motivated to give him the bracelet. And I was just like, if you suspect something, please give this to the person that you feel like they might be in trouble, and tell them when you're ready, flip this over and call this number. And I gave it to him. And then I talked to Kristen about what I did, and she's like, you can make teddy bears and bracelets for yourself where you can have the human traffic line number in the back at first of the collars of the teddy bears, the small little teddy bears, having t-shirts. And then you can have like this Spiralight logo on the front or something like that, but make it like discreet. You know what I mean? You don't need to have like a Spiralight planted, just like
Right.
the logo or something like that. And
Right.
so we started opening up for donations for that. And then my next step was, and she connected me with law enforcement out here in Colorado, Don Adams, which he's not here now, but he will be seeing us on replay. So Don, I appreciate you so much. We've had several coffee chats. He is a police officer in Boulder County. He's a very small agency. And Kristen connected me to him, and I was sharing with him about our campaign, for the teddy bears and the bracelets. And I was like, and he said too, he's like, how many times it would have been so beneficial to be able to leave a survivor that wouldn't really, instead of giving them a card, giving them this bracelet, and I was just like, oh my gosh. And it elevated even more the campaign, because at first I was just thinking like, let's connect with outreach program, like do stuff like you and We Like Fight Monsters, like just going out to homeless camps and stuff like that, and just giving it out with resources for them as well, which is also a great idea. But then Don really elevated this. I was like, I never thought how law enforcement could be able to use this when they're
Mm-hmm.
on calls, and they're not really fully to be able to identify it, because a lot of times when you get calls like that, it's not like just a
Right.
human trafficking situation. It's like a suspected, a suspect like in question or something like that. It's very like vague, you know. And
Especially if they're high or looking to get high or don't want to lose their connect or any of the thing that goes along with addiction. Whenever you're in that frame of mind, all you can think of is, I don't want to look, what's going to happen if I can't get my fix? You know what I
yep,
mean?
yep. Oh, 100%. And so, yeah, I was trying to figure out like how do we build partnerships with law enforcement, especially with this agency. You know what I mean? And so he connected me and Inspire Light, our board, to Crisis Aid, and he knew Crisis Aid because the recovery says, sorry. So he connected us to Crisis Aid. Now he knew Crisis Aid. Don knew Adam Canavan, who is a law enforcement liaison. He was like on St. Louis's police force for like 20 plus years, focusing on exploitation online for children. Ideally, that was his focus. But now that he's retired, he does a bunch of law enforcement trainings with Crisis Aid. And Don and his task force actually got a couple of trainings done from him. And he was just like, I was sharing with him not just a campaign, but also what we're trying to do with Inspire Light. He goes, I see so many similarities with Inspire Light and what Crisis has, but they're just like on even a huge, massive level how they serve. It's so beautiful. And so he connected me with Adam. I watched a couple of interviews with Adam, and I kind of did my research on him, and then I like opened up, and it's like shared with him some things that I learned that he shared, and we were able to set up a meeting with him. Actually, this is now 2025, January 2025. And the first meeting we had with Cindy, who is senior program manager of law enforcement with Crisis Aid, and Adam Canavan. We were our original intent to sit down, like the whole board was there, and we sat down originally just like we had questions on how do we build these partnerships, what rapport do we need to do, what more information do we need to do, what more do we need to go out there to do, because like it's not easy to build partnership with law enforcement. Like they want to see like some background. And not only did they help us with that, but like this 1 hour conversation turned into 3 hours. They wanted to know a little bit more about my story, and my background and what I'm doing, and this 3 hour conversation turned into them asking me to be a survivor leader speaker for their law enforcement trainings in the future. And I was like,
Wow.
paid law. I don't like saying that paid, but at the same time, it's very important. This money for
It's
me,
very important.
it is. But personally, for me, like I said, money's still healing with my relationship money. But they asked me a paid survivor leader speaker for the law enforcement trainings, and I said absolutely. Now that completely shifted how we've been approaching our campaign. We've actually Dina, who was just on here, she actually is the artist for the t-shirts that we'll be getting out. There's a son with special needs.
Okay.
Yes, Dina. Yep. She is
Nice.
the
Very
artist
cool.
for the shirts. And when Crisis Aid even helped us make it more discreet to share the hotline number on the back instead of being on the collar, they suggested it being like have it be on the tag, but like on the front of the tag, it just looks like a regular tag, like wash, dry, whatever. But then inside the tag is where you put the number, and then when you give it to the survivor, you tell them if you need it, just rip this tag out and flip it over, because there was even saying like what happens if, like, you know, the teddy bear you have, they actually found the teddy bear more discreet than the bracelet. And
Yeah.
yeah, and they suggested to me, to us, they were just like, well, why don't you do it this way, because the way that we're approaching it, I'm like, it can actually cause a lot of harm with how just having it on the collar, because like if the survivor isn't around and the trafficker like sees the teddy bear is like sniffing around, survivor gets in trouble, you know what I mean? So, and there's
Yeah,
like it's easier.
don't give out
Yeah,
too much, Kalila said.
yeah, sorry. Thank you. I needed that. Because sometimes it's just like no filter. Like, thank you.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so they give you some really great ideas to keep it discreet. So yeah. Still working on that. That's still work in progress. We've put that on hold right now, the campaign. I've even stopped promoting for donations for it right now, because I've been focusing on writing my story to have it be informative since this meeting with Crisis Aid. And the last thing they said to me, they're like, this is the beginning of a long-term partnership. And the one thing that I love about Crisis Aid is they grow organically and not progressively. So they take their time with building relationships, especially since they are internationally just started coming out here the last couple of years in Colorado. So they're very small but growing. I met their advocate here in Colorado Springs. Right, that part, Kiki. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, I just get like thank you. I appreciate that. I'm still
So
working
let me
on
throw
that.
some, let me just, this is just food for thought. This is just totally my opinion. It's not like I have any concrete evidence for this. But as somebody who has been doing just grassroots fundraising on social media since, you know, April or May of last year, um, don't stop fundraising. Even if you're not doing anything right now, you know you're going to, and everything takes capital. Everything is going to take, you know, like for our merch, like we do it through a third party, like we don't have to touch it. Like they charge us and then we get the profit off of it or whatever. But when you're doing stuff like this, where you're wanting to have stuff to hand out and you've got to keep stuff on hand, all of that is overhead. It's going to take the money to do it.
Everything's been coming out of
So,
my pocket, not even the board. It's coming out
yeah,
of my pocket.
stop doing that. Don't stop fundraising for real, because even if you're not, like, just to be completely transparent, um, you know, with the Raven is here, we're not doing much right now. We're looking to try to raise money to get some sober living houses and stuff like that. But I never stop fundraising, never stop, you know, throwing merch out there or whatever, because all of it takes money. And if we only have $100 in the bank, then we're pretty much useless if something comes up. You know what I mean?
Right.
Do
And
not, just because you're not doing anything right now does not mean you won't be doing something in 30 days. Do
that
not
part.
stop fundraising.
Well,
Do not do it.
the reason why we haven't really even got merch out is because what's on the page is not the official logo, which we just got connected with a graphic artist, and he just, it took us like 2 months, but we like this past week we got a logo. Like we got a logo. I haven't put it out there yet, but we have a logo. So there's going to be a lot of imagery changing where we'll be able to start making like shirts
Yeah.
and hats
And I
and
will tell you
being able to have
this,
stuff like this.
unless God just drops his hand of favor on you, you're not going to raise just a crap ton of money selling merch.
No, that
Do
part.
not stop fundraising. Do not stop pushing the merch. Do not do any of that, because you're going to need that money 100%. That's just my 2 cents.
No, you're
Take it
1,000%.
for what it's worth.
I'm still, maybe you can help me with this, like on the back end, you know, like how, like, even though I don't have merch out there, like how do we even, um, you know, because the campaign right now with the teddy bears, I mean, I guess we could still talk about it. I've looked into printers. The printing part has been kind of difficult, especially
I
with,
bet.
um,
Highly
like,
customized doing the things you're wanting to do is probably
yeah,
pretty
I've
tough.
gotten some quotes and they're pretty pricey, and
I bet.
Yeah, especially with like the discreetness part. And I've talked to Crisis Aid
Right.
about this too. Like maybe we could talk a little bit more about elevating that in the near future and getting more out there with the campaign. I've just really been focusing so much on turning this story into something that can be educational and informative for law enforcement training, and instead of most importantly pointing fingers at them when I felt like my government wasn't there for me, being able to use this as to what could have been beneficial for me, which I have written down where instead of just saying here's my card, you're fine, being able to been like, here are some organizations, here are some resources that might be able
Right.
to help you, and we're going to check in on you in a couple of weeks, see how you're doing, because I didn't know, I didn't know I was surviving, like I didn't know how to look up a therapist at that time, or I was just trying to make sure I had a roof over my head and food on my
Yeah.
stomach. You know what I mean? And so and being able to have law enforcement meet me halfway and be like, hey, like, have you looked at these organizations? No, okay, let's us help you be able to like find rehabilitation for yourself to see if we can get you into a program. You know what I mean? Like I feel like that would have changed my story so many and
Sure.
myself, like not just for me, but so many other survivors as well. And like that reintegration part, you know what I mean? Because it sounds beautiful, it sounds nice, but it really can get messy when it comes to reintegration. Like I am really
Yeah.
thankful, God led me through, but there's even more layers and more red tape for survivors who have a record. You know what I mean? Not just like a stupid DUI, but have records from their trafficking situation, and it looks like one thing
Yep.
that really to another. You know what I mean? And now we are just starting to meet them halfway, just starting. And there's a lot of other things too that we can get into a rabbit hole about, But I think reintegration is something that is so important that needs to be talked about more, because that's where the solution is, to be able to have survivors reintegrate with themselves. Because, like I said, I lost myself so
Mm-hmm.
much. You know what I mean? I couldn't even identify who I was or what I loved or even understand what the hell self love was and how to give that to me. You know, it wasn't until others like kind of being that example for me, and I'm thankful to tell steps. But sometimes there's survivors who have a much harder time even embracing themselves, the family, and the community because they've been so jaded for so long, and in a mindset that that takes years to rewire
Years.
or on a physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual levels,
Mm-hmm.
so learning how to do that. So Inspire Light right now, here's the game plan. Inspire Light. It's supposed to be a safe sanctuary for mothers who went through exploitation and human sex trafficking to heal with the land, to be self-sufficient with community, to reintegrate with themselves, their family, and the community, to learn how to, cultivate food, how to live with the land, how to be able to provide for their own selves with natural resources, rather have to worry on government EBT or resources 100% coming in from donations from the organization. Like it's there with the land, and then when they're ready on their terms to fly and be their own and have their own families and have their own, even if they're living in like a little urban community, they can even have their own resources that they learned at Inspire.
Sure.
Like, you know what I mean? By even building a little
Yeah.
garden in their backyard, it doesn't only takes like, and I'm still learning how to have a green thumb, but like having a little like a pottery garden, you know what I mean, where they don't have to fully rely on Amazon or
Mm-mm.
natural grocers, and then even elevating that, which I haven't really full talked about, but having a similar platform like Inspire Light for survivors, but not like a same sanctuary, but for the general public to give opportunities for employment. Doesn't matter your background, for survivors. So when they're ready at a certain level through their healing, they're able to go to the public. It's like a apothecary farmers market where they have like a smaller farm, but a lot of like the like products that we sell or stuff that we harvest are cultivated, and even having classes that survivors teach the general public how to make tinctures, how to like can food, how to like harvest even with like pottery, etc., etc., etc. Like I said, like my green thumb is not like my biggest thing. I'm learning from
Yeah.
other people in that way, but like they are able to teach the general public while also sharing about intervention and prevention, when it comes to human sex trafficking, because this happens in every neighborhood. It doesn't matter how you think your neighborhood is safe. I am telling you it's not. And being
Yeah.
mindful as to how to develop the eyes and not be scared and put your faith in the ground, but being curious to look into the signs and understanding, especially online. Online today has made predator it's such a like a predator ground for human sex trafficking, to make it easier to lure them in and then get them in person, which happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
So
And I
thanks.
think yeah, thanks, Khalil. Love you, sis. And I think what a lot of people don't know, like I grew up in the country, but what a lot of people don't realize is even if you live in a neighborhood, like people don't realize that like how much produce you can get off of one or two plants, how many tomatoes one or two tomato plants will produce, how much squash one or two plants will produce, how much, how many peppers or whatever. Yeah, if you live in a zip code or don't, trafficking is happening. That's big facts.
Period.
Um, period. Like
It
you
just
could literally, like literally, it does not take that much space to grow your own vegetables for you, and even if it's you and a family, you know what I mean? Like the amount of stuff those plants produce, people don't realize it that have never been, never been around it. It doesn't take that much room for a family of two or four to have produce for the year.
happened. Exactly. And we always will have our doors open, but most importantly, not re-exploiting survivors. That is like such a huge
Yes.
thing that I'm still developing more research on as we grow and build partnerships. And it's and I wanted to give opportunities for survivors to have employment and also share this education with the general public, so then the general public can take what they need when it comes to developing this awareness of the human trafficking
Mm-hmm.
and what to look out for, not be afraid of or turn their back on, but become curious and lean into, while in the midst of coming back to basics with like the natural law of things when it comes to being a part of process of our natural resources and home goods, what we bring into our homes, what we're putting into our food, what we're putting into our stomachs,
Right.
what we have around our house. You know what I mean? So going back to basics with that, and even if you live in a city, you know what I mean? Like that is not an excuse that you can't like create and be a part of the process of your natural resources, you know?
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Have you filed for your
Oh
501c3
yes,
yet?
we did. We did in
Okay.
December of 2023. We are now
Good.
recognized as a 501c3.
Good.
Um, yep, and we have the LLC as well. So there's kind of two entities going on. I just don't like, again, I don't have the EIN or anything up yet,
Yeah.
but it will be there. Um, so we're working on that, and a lot of that, truthfully, is me just getting out of my own way. Where it's just like, do you know, but for
Yeah.
donations, don't be afraid. Like, and I'm saying that to myself, like I'm
Yeah.
like to myself,
That's
like
been a huge thing for me is because I don't like asking, right? Like I want to
that
earn it.
part.
But as a nonprofit, you have to. You have to ask because you function off of donations or any income you can generate, but it has to go back into, the nonprofit or whatever, like merch or even like something as simple as bake sales or, something rudimentary like that. Um, but you got to ask. Just you,
Mhm.
and it takes a lot, man, when you're on social media all the time, doing all that. So I get it 100%.
Well, I'll definitely call it.
Grants, yes, I
Yeah,
am still
Grant.
waiting. We are still waiting. It's been 6 months, so it ought to be any day
Grant
now that our
who's about to graduate with
501c3
her
comes through.
bachelor's degree, so she's gonna be Shivy. She's gonna be our grant writer. I don't know if she's listening in. I didn't see her pop in, but her and her husband.
Yeah.
Yes, I have a grant writer. She's just waiting on deck. Just be like, let me know, and I'm there. I just haven't
Well,
applied or
then
looked.
I might need an intro then.
Oh, I will. I got you. Trust me, I got you. She's actually written for nonprofits in her undergrad. So yeah,
Okay.
I'll introduce you.
I need to call the IRS. Well, I need to call the IRS to check on it, but it's one of those things like I don't want to be on the phone for 2 hours on
That part.
hold and being put, and I'm just like, oh my God. Okay.
We were accepted. We filed in December of 2023. It takes about 4 to 6 months, but it says on pay.gov we were accepted. I believe we still have to we need to make an entity for a nonprofit because we only have the LLC nonprofit as well as the 501c3, but we don't have like the nonprofit entity. Like we have an EIN and everything. It's just like I said, I just haven't posted it. Because I need to get out of my own way because I'm like thinking like, well, we're not doing anything right now, and I'm just like, Lexie, stop. Lexie, stop.
Right,
So,
right,
I
for
don't know. I
sure.
learned from you, like straight up. Kristen Vaughn, she helped us get the 501c3 most of that together. I'm thankful for her help, but she gave me the Ravens here documentation. I just basically learned from y'all, and I just took out the Ravens here and put Inspire Light on, the like articles on corporations,
Yeah, she
all this.
straight up smashed it on when
Yeah,
she
she
did
did,
ours.
and she helped me too, and I'm so
Yeah,
thankful for her guidance.
I am too. Couldn't have done
Yeah,
it without her for sure.
1000%. Thousand
Yeah.
percent. Yep. Yeah. So it was me that came out of full out of pocket. Like I was gonna ask for donations to file for my 501c3, but it was even me. I didn't even ask the board. I just fully paid that $600, and
Yeah.
I did it. So we're recognized in that way. I have that on the website. I just don't have the EIN there, but we're grown. We're getting there. So
Yeah.
I've been so focused on presenting for Inspire Light with Crisis Aid because they are inviting us to be able to use, you know, this law enforcement training, not just share education, but then being able to be like less open for partnership or Inspire Light with what you're doing, you know, with professionals already in the fight, you know. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So I was really thankful. That's why I've been focusing on that. Plus rebranding, which we just got all of that together. So I'll be sharing a lot about that very, very soon on social media.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love it. Lexie, this has been an amazing story. Like I said at the beginning, I've heard some of it, not all of it. Um, and I always love that because I like not I don't want to say being surprised, but I like hearing it for the first time live with everyone else. You know what I
Right.
mean? Or at least the majority of it. Like I love that part of it. Um, so thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for what you're doing with Inspire Light. Um, keep fundraising. Don't stop fundraising. You're going to have money in the bank. Period. To do
Don't
anything.
stop. Get it. Get it. It's not just from my pocket. So anything that
Right.
I mean,
You, that's not sustainable.
no, it's not.
All right, y'all. Real quick before I go, next week, super cool story here. So there's a girl or a woman that I've been connected with on LinkedIn since I first got on LinkedIn, probably the end of 2020 or 20. I'd have to go back and look 2020 or beginning of 21, something like that. Anyway, I was real big at that time. I was doing a lot of stuff in the like justice involved. That's how this show originally started, was being justice involved and dealing or interviewing people that were justice involved. This woman named Jenny Burton posted. She had just finished her bachelor's degree. She had posted before and after pictures of her meth addiction and where she was at now. So we connected, but then never connected. Right? Like we connected on LinkedIn and then never connected or never had a conversation. She has literally been on my list to interview for Ending the Stigma for like 4 years. Um, not this past weekend, but weekend before, I was in Memphis doing the first cleanup day at the nursing home that Ben and Jess acquired. And I hear Ben say, "Hey, he's telling the Action News 5 dude, I forget, Joe Birch, hey, you need to talk to her. That's Jenny Burton. She's my hero." And I was like, Jenny Burton's here? You've got to be freaking kidding me, man. I've been following her and her journey for like 4 years. So we met, got to talk for a little bit. Here's what she's doing. She's working to end addiction and incarceration at the bureaucratic level, as far as like changing laws and stuff like that, which is freaking awesome, because that's really how change is going to happen, right? It's got to happen at the bureaucratic level for it to trickle down into the system. So she will be on with me next week. Super excited about that. I'm going to plug the GoFundMe one more time. If y'all been following along during this whole episode, some very dear friends of mine lost their 18-year-old daughter last night to addiction. I'm not sure all the details on it yet, and I really don't care. It doesn't matter, but they need some help with funeral expenses. So I've dropped some GoFundMe links on across all the platforms. If you're kind of iffy about GoFundMe for whatever reason, cool. Go to theravenishere.org, click the donate button in the notes, put Marley, and I'll make sure that money gets to her, gets to where it needs to go. So anyway, thank y'all for that. I appreciate it. Lexie, I've enjoyed it, man. I don't even feel like we've been talking for an hour and a half.
I know. Oh my goodness. This was so cool, Chris. Thank you for
Yeah,
having me. Seriously,
it
I
was a
had such a good
blast.
time.
Yeah, I did too. It was fun. It was a good way to spend my evening. So thank you for that. Thanks to everybody that tuned in. I say it every week. I couldn't do it without you. You know, this is a live stream podcast. I should, but I don't put it on Spotify or Apple or Amazon or anywhere else you listen to podcasts. So what happens here happens here. And I couldn't do it without y'all. If it wasn't for the support that y'all show up and give me every week, like I wouldn't be able to do this. So thank y'all so much. I appreciate it. Lexie, thank you again. Is there anything else you want to leave us with?
Don't stop, get it. And
Don't stop. Get it. Get it.
I say that a lot in kickboxing to myself. um, and I like to share it with my class too.
Right.
And you know, the more that we can love ourselves from the inside out, the more that we allow ourselves to be open to love for others and be that example we want to be in the world. You know, you want to see it,
Yeah.
you got to be it first. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Agree 100%. Thank you again for being here. Thank you everybody for showing up. And we will see y'all next Monday night at 7 Central with Jenny Burton. Good night, y'all.